For the little baby to rub, nigga, I gotta be safe.
Let's get sports talk.
Through the line, there's no one on that field fast enough to catch Taysom Hill. He does it all. Block punt, receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown, first quarterback in league history to do all three. I can't imagine there's any other quarterback that's ever blocked a punt except maybe like a guy like Sammy Baugh that played both ways. But the guy's an incredible talent, and Sean Payton knows how to use him, and use him they did on Thursday night, Big Cat. En route to the 26-18 victory, those points that he scored ended up being very useful when the Falcons tried to stage their comeback. But Taysom Hill, a special ingredient for a Saints team that has now won the NFC South 3 years in a row.
Okay, so Mike, I want to throw this out here for discussion, and I think the Saints are fascinating because you have the Ravens, the Patriots, the Ravens, the Patriots, the 49ers. Everyone's talking about those three teams. Those three teams are the class of the NFL. The Saints now clinch their division on Thanksgiving Day, which is incredible to say. It's so early in the season to basically be in the playoffs, to be in the playoffs and clinch your division. But with that said, doesn't it feel like some of these games, last night being a perfect example, the Saints that were maybe a couple of years ago when they were really rolling, they win that game by 20 points going away? And doesn't it feel like they're struggling to put teams away? You saw it with the Panthers 2 weeks ago. And that makes me a little nervous knowing that if the 49ers keep playing the way they're playing, they could possibly have home field advantage and the Saints would have to go on the road, which we always know they're a different team on the road. It's just a very weird feeling around this Saints team from my perspective where they're very good, they're very talented, they could absolutely go to the Super Bowl, but something seems a little bit off where they aren't able to step on teams' throats when they should, especially a Falcons team that really is playing for nothing, and outside of 2 weeks where they popped up, has been objectively terrible all year long.
There was a stretch last year where the Saints were destroying everyone, and it culminated in the Thanksgiving night win over the Falcons. And then a week later, they played the Cowboys, and something popped on the Saints then. And they haven't been able to put it back in place where they blow teams out on a consistent basis. You're absolutely right. They keep screwing around with these teams. They screwed around with the Panthers on Sunday. They screwed around with the Falcons last night, and the Falcons had a chance, but for the inability of the offense to move the ball in the final 2 minutes, they had a chance to force overtime in that game. And that will work against teams that are 4-8 and 5-6. It's not going to work, as you said, against the best teams in the league. And we're going to find out next Sunday. We're going to get a great test of where these Saints are because the 49ers come to town. And look, you've got the Packers, Vikings, Saints, 49ers, and Seahawks. 5 teams. 2 of them are going to get buys. And the Saints are in great position to get one of them because they don't have anyone chasing them from behind in their own division. They're locked in. But they're going to get locked out if they get rolled by the 49ers on Sunday. That's going to be that splash of cold water that may come too late for the Saints to wake it up down the stretch. And they may end up with home field advantage, but only for the wild card round, and then have to go to a place like Green Bay or San Francisco in the divisional round.
And it's a very...
Why they ain't able to blow out teams is they only have one wide receiver to go to. They could go to Cook, but he inconsistent. They want him to be consistent because they know they only got Michael Thomas to throw to. If someone take him away in the playoffs, someone else going to have to step up. Because eventually someone is going to double team him and make somebody else beat them. Someone down the line is going to do that in the playoff game against them. Only reason they ain't able to blow out 10, I think that's that last little play that happened last year against the Rams is still in the back of their head. But they still a good team. They still 10-2. They still get the job done. But I think that still play a part of them thinking about that. But at some point, you're going to have someone else to step up besides Michael Thomas. Because if somebody take him away, they're going to need Cook to be consistent.
Weird discussion discussion to have when you have a team that, like I said, just clinched their division on Thanksgiving and looks great and looks like they have the inside track to that second bye, the second bye, or maybe even the first seed and have the whole playoffs go through New Orleans. But there just feels like there's something a little bit off where the Saints should be putting these teams away. And they have a complete team. They have a lot of offensive weapons. We just saw Taysom Hill. I mean, no other team has a Taysom Hill type player. Their defensive line has been great. They have a complete team. They have a great coach, but just a little thing that keeps nagging me is the Saints should be putting some of these teams away. You've seen it sometimes with the Ravens, what they did Monday night. You've seen it with the 49ers, what they did Sunday night. Some of these teams...
It's like Taysom Hill set off the game with a block punt. That's what got the Saints going. Gave them a short yard to be able to score that touchdown. Like, he's a weapon that they could use. He could do multiple things for them. He could do special teams. He could play running back. He could play wide receiver. Like, he had a good game last night. Like, he's like everything player. It's just something missing with them. Like, it's just like they can't continue playing down to people's level. They need to finish teams off, or they can catch up with them if they play like that leading up to the playoffs. You don't want to head to the playoffs playing like that because it could eventually slip up and catch up with you at the wrong time.
That are the true elite of the NFL, they absolutely hammer teams when they should, when it's a clear gap in talent. And the Saints haven't been able to do that the last few weeks, and it makes me just wonder if there's something a little bit off with this Saints team.
I'm going to validate your point, and then I'm going to give you my thought on why this is happening. Let's take it all the way back to week 1. 30-28, Monday night game, barely beat the Texans. They lost 27-9 to the Rams in the game that Drew Brees got injured. 33-27 against the Seahawks. It shouldn't have been that close. It got close. Again, not putting your foot on the throat of the Seahawks. It should not have only been a 6-point win. 12-10 over the Cowboys. 31-24 over the Buccaneers. 13-6 over the Jaguars. They beat the Bears by 11. That's one of their biggest wins of the year. Then they followed up 31-9 over the Cardinals, but then since then, lost to the Falcons. They took care of the Buccaneers, but that game was closer than 34-17. Barely beat the Panthers, held on to beat the Falcons. And what I think the Saints are lacking, they are lacking that ability when you are in a position where the team is on the ropes, you deliver the knockout blow. The Ravens have it in the form of a very perfectly timed Lamar Jackson rip out your soul long run that either goes for a touchdown or close to it, and then you're just done after that. Other teams will throw the deep ball. I mean, they can't throw. That's the problem with the Saints. This is the one thing that you're not allowed to talk about because Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer and one of the best 5 quarterbacks, arguably, of all time. He can't get the ball down the field anymore. So when you do have a 7 or a 10...
Like, he could get the job done still, but you could tell the age catch up with him. Now, he can't throw the deep passes like he normally used to. But at the same time, you gotta look at it like it's the age catch up with him, but he still get the Saints to win. Now, he still get the Saints to a Super Bowl. He ain't got no deep threat. Michael Thomas is not that type to go deep. He's a guy that come across the middle. They looking for Smith to do that, be their deep threat, but they don't have no deep threat. So Michael Thomas everything is short with him. Cook could be a deep threat, but he's been inconsistent with them. They just don't have a deep threat for them. And Brees can't push the football down the field like he normally could. It just the age come to play a part in it.
Point lead, and you're at the 50-yard line. You can't do the play action pass and the long throw to Ted Ginn. When was the last time we saw a long throw to Ted Ginn? They threw one to him in the end zone last night, but that wasn't the classic Ted Ginn trying to hit him in stride. Drew Brees can't hit him in stride anymore, and that's the problem. So unless you're going to rotate Taysom Hill in to throw the deep ball, you don't have that in your arsenal, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Saints aren't able to put their foot on these teams' throats.
Yeah, I actually said that maybe last week, and to Drew Brees' credit, he did throw one deep to Ted Ginn last week against the Panthers that Ted Ginn just flat out dropped. Stop me if you've heard this before. But you're right, Mike. I said this the same thing a week ago on Pardon My Take, and Saints fans or a lot of people will say you can't talk about Drew Brees that way, but it's the truth. That deep ball, kill shot that they've had in their arsenal in years past is just not there. Because I watched that entire game last night, and of course, the Falcons coming back was a little fluky because they got...
People gotta understand, Drew Brees, he is 40. He ain't the young Brees that could throw a deep pass. If he could push it down the field, probably once in a blue moon, like the game last week, Ted Ginn just dropped the pass. That's all. Other than that, he can't really push it like he normally could. But he still could get the Saints to the promised land. He still could get the job done no matter what. Even though he can't push it down the field no more, but he still figured out a way to help this team win 10 games, only lose 2 games. And he missed half of the season. But when he come back, he still could help this team win. Like, he just had the smarts, and he still could get this team winning games. And no matter he can't push the football down the field anymore, but he still find a way. And you know he don't really have a deep threat like that. Ted Ginn can be a deep threat, but the arm ain't there no more. But it's still there to be enough for them to win a championship.
3 onside kicks in a row. And if you even want to go back through their schedule, Mike, that Bears game, that wasn't an 11-point game. That was a 20-point game. The Bears put up absolute junkyard stats that meant nothing. The Saints dominated the Bears in that game. But last night, outside the fluky onside kicks, it still felt like the Saints were just letting them hang around. It felt like the Saints should have won that game 35 to 12 or 35 to 14. Instead, you hang around long enough, and one of these freak things are going to happen. And that's my concern with them going into the playoffs, where they can compete with any team. They are probably going to be favorites if they're in the dome, and they have that.
If they can get home field advantage, it's there for the taking. But if they go on a road and play someone, they is 1-5 on the road. Dome teams don't do good against teams that's outside with cold weather. Now, if they find a way to play San Francisco in the warm weather, it probably help them in their favor. But they haven't been good on the road. But if they get an opportunity to play in a dome, it's theirs. They just got to hope San Francisco lose a game or two to be able to have home field advantage.
Home crowd, but if they let teams hang around and they're not able to have that kill shot, and you saw it actually last year in the NFC Championship game against the Rams, where they felt like they had the Rams on the ropes early, and Jared Goff was seeing ghosts and all this was going on, and the Rams come back in that game, and you get to a spot where we don't have to go down this road and talk about the Mike Florio rule, but that's my concern with the Saints. They're still a phenomenal team, but if I were a Saints fan, that's the one thing that would keep nagging me.
Well, you mentioned the Bears game, right? It should have been one of those games where the next morning you see the score in the newspaper and you say, holy crap, the Saints destroyed the Bears, right? The Pat Shurmur effect, with the people who just scan the headlines and they see, wow, 36-7, holy, the Saints are great. And let me go back one level in the playoffs before the NFC Championship game. First play from scrimmage against the Eagles. Remember this one? They've been working on this play for 2 weeks. They got it dialed up. It's ready to go. They're gonna shut down this Philly special crap right out of the gates, and they're dialing up a deep pass to Ted Ginn, and it all looked good when they drew it up and when they practiced. The only problem is when it was time to throw it in the game, Drew Brees couldn't get it to him, and Avonte Maddox picked it off. And that put the Saints really in a bad position. They had to come back and fight and scratch and claw to win that game. But you take the deep ball out of any NFL team's arsenal, and you got a problem. And you know what happened last night? They put Taysom Hill on the field, and every time Taysom Hill's on the field now, you're guarding against that deep ball, and that's what the Falcons did. They were trying to serve up a deep pass, the Saints were, for Hill, so he could have the touchdown reception, the touchdown run, and the touchdown pass, and they were all over it. And I think that's now the default. When you see Hill on the field, you got to have your safety a little bit deeper, because the only time they're throwing a deep pass is...
That's what I'm saying. He's the do-it-all player. Since Drew Brees can't really throw it down the field like he normally used to, make a play that you have a quarterback with another strong arm and put him in so he could be able to do that. When you see Taysom Hill in, you won't have to be cautious with that because he could get it down the field for them. They put that in the playbook. You just had to be ready for it. Your safety had to be on point when he's in. If you lose sight of Taysom Hill, they can catch you slipping.
When Taysom Hill's out there.
Maybe that's the answer, Mike. Maybe we need to have Sean Payton just go straight, college football where they run 3 quarterbacks and Teddy Bridgewater gets time as well. And series to series, they switch in and out. That's the answer to the problem for the Saints.
Oh, I'm sure that would go over well with Drew Brees. I know you're being sarcastic. There is some truth in it. I don't think it would happen because you're right. It wouldn't go over well with Drew Brees. And again, this is a hard conversation to have because Drew Brees is a no-doubter Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But the reality is,
even though he can't do that anymore, Drew Brees still could get the Saints to a championship and win it. Like, he still got enough in him to help this team hoist another trophy over their head. Can't take nothing away from Drew Brees. It don't matter if he can't throw the deep pass anymore. But he sure could help this team win one.
getting the ball down the field isn't very easy for him anymore, and it takes something away from that offense that allows them to step on teams' throats and put teams away and be that dominant force that you see from the Ravens or the 49ers, or I'm sure what the Patriots will show. The Patriots are going to round into form at some point this December where they do the same thing, where they step on a team's throat and absolutely crush them.
And in this year in the NFC, when you look at all the great teams there are, this is not the year to have that inability to drop the hammer. You can't leave the door open for any of these teams, or you're going to find yourself eliminated from the postseason.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching.